We just went pending on my biggest flip to date, and I'm going to walk you through exactly how I got the deal, what the numbers are, and how you can possibly do the same thing here on the Fearless Investor Podcast. Hey, welcome in, everyone. I'm Kyle Stanley. I am really excited today to talk to you about a deal that we just went pending on and the numbers and how I got it. And this is definitely our biggest profit by far on any flip. And I want to show you exactly how we got there. So the goal today is to give you some knowledge and help you feel like you're in the driver's seat of this deal so you can see exactly how you can go out and do deals like this. I know a lot of you are looking to do your first deals. A lot of you have come to our podcast to talk about Airbnb as well and learn more about that. But I've got a lot of different sides of my business in which I think overall feed into the real estate machine. And I think it's important to have a lot of different flows of income, because when you turn off faucets, if some faucets are leaky, if some faucets get taken away from you, what are your backup plans? And that's what allows me to be able to have these multiple faucets feeding into one pool, which is that real estate pool, and being able to know that, hey, I've got some security if this goes away. I've got some security if this goes away. I've got some security if this one continues to be on a downward trend. So things like that. So before we get started today, if you're listening to the podcast, thank you for listening. I'm going to do my best job to paint a picture for you with numbers. If you're watching on YouTube, you're going to get the benefit of being able to see some of the deal analyzers, see some of the numbers, and it might sink in a little bit more. Either way, no matter what platform you're on, please make sure that you're subscribed and that you're reviewing or leaving comments. We love to be able to engage with you and love to be able to hear what you're doing and how we can help. So anyway, let's get to it. I've got some notes here. I'm going to share my screen on YouTube. If you're listening on podcast, though, I am going to definitely do my best to paint a picture. So the first thing is that how I got this deal. So this is in Fresno, California, where right now our market is very hot, which none of us saw that going on during COVID. COVID hit. All of us were thinking, wow, the market's probably going to crash or all this stuff. And I still think there's going to eventually be some sort of correction. There's going to be a lag effect on all of this. But right now we're taking advantage of a market that is just completely shooting through the roof. So COVID happened and now, things started to lighten up. It was right around probably middle May when things started to lighten up a little bit. And we're over at dinner with some family friends, and this guy says, hey, I've got this coworker and her dad is really not doing very well. He built a house with his own bare hands about 30 years ago. And so he owns it outright. But he's basically used this house as kind of like a hoarder house for the last 30 years and just has an accumulation of a bunch of stuff, antique stuff, vehicles, scrap metal, all this kind of stuff, books, tons of books everywhere. And he said, I want to help out this coworker. And he said, I've got the money. She wants about $140,000 for the property. And I said, okay, great. Where's it located? And he told me the address. We looked it up and I was like, oh my gosh, I own a house literally 4 houses down from this. I do it as Airbnb and I bought it about a year ago. It was in a little bit of rougher condition and I bought it 190. Today it should be worth probably about 220 to 225. And this house that he was talking about, so mine is on Sierra, the one that I own. And one that he brought to the table is on Del Mar. And so when he showed me this, the one on Del Mar had 250 extra square feet. It had RV parking, huge backyard on a third of an acre of a lot. And I just saw in basically like everything within the house spoke to me like higher value. So I always do these things very conservatively. So he and I just started kind of writing some numbers on a napkin. And I said, hey, look, if let's call this thing, get it at 140, and let's call this a $40,000 to $45,000 rehab. Here's our potential profit. And we just kind of did some napkin numbers. But I went home and I did a deeper analyzation. So now I'm going to share my screen here on the YouTube Zoom stuff. So share screen. And which one do we want here? I'm just going to do desktop. Okay. Share. Actually, here it is. Okay. So here was what originally we thought is going to be possible. So, and if you want access to this deal analyzer, if you notice I still have Fearless Flipping, I guess I need to update that. But if you want access to this deal analyzer, do me a favor. just email me, info@fearlesskyle.com. I don't have this available out to the public, but I'd be happy to email this to you if you want to just go ahead and connect with me. But here's how I break it down. We got our values and repairs over here. I estimated that if my house was 200 square feet less, 250 square feet less, didn't have RV parking, and was worth right around 220, this one should be worth at least 245. I got to that through a large number of um, deal analyzation where I look at comps, look at price per square foot. I'm not getting into the deal analyzation part of that right now, but the asking price was 140 and we estimated about $45,000 of rehab. Usually my rehabs take about 2 months at the most, and then they sell pretty quickly. So usually it takes about 3 months, but I always add an extra month just in case an escrow falls through. So we said it was going to take about 4 months. Our all-in price with expenses along with buying costs was going to be right around 185,000 plus the 2,500 of buying costs. I have a great deal with my realtor. They give me 4.5%. So my selling costs were going to be just over 12,000 at that 245 price. Holding costs include property taxes, HOA, which we don't have here, insurance, utilities, all that kind of stuff, right around $1,700. And here was the great thing is that this guy said, "Hey, I've got the money." And so I told him, well, usually money costs us on something like this about $6,000-7,000 with points and interest included. And he said, do me a favor, just give me an extra $1,000. And so essentially we're doing a 50-50 split, but I'm giving in an extra $1,000 for funding the deal. So he brought the deal, he funded it. He's going 50-50 with me. And I'm giving him a little bit extra. And then so on the return, that's a 23.5% return and $43,000 already would be my biggest flip that I've done to date. Backstory, if you don't know my flipping story, I started in 2019 with a combination of flipping plus wholesaling plus some subject to purchases. We've done about 10 deals in the last, what is that? So 20 months, not by any stretch of the imagination, a ton of deals, but those have made me anywhere between about $5,000 to as much as $28,000. So this $43,000 number, I was like, yeah, heck yeah. Even though we're going to be splitting that, let's go ahead and do it. And so he saw that, he said, wow, I can make, 21 grand really, if you cut that in half on, an $185,000 investment, which for him was going to be about 12%. I mean, that's a great return, not 12% annually. That's the key thing here, guys. We talk about 12% return. This is a just overall 12% return on his money in 3 to 4 months. That's great. If it's 12% annualized, that's still great. But we're talking 12% overall within 3 to 4 months. So he was stoked about it. And so stop sharing my screen here. I want to go back to my notes here because I really do have a lot of stuff that I want to share about this deal. So he gets excited. I get excited. I'm like, great, this is awesome. I don't have any marketing costs. I don't have any, raising the money costs. This is going to be a really low headache kind of deal. All we have to do now is go see the property. Well, I called him about a day or two later. And he said, unfortunately, someone else offered like 160 plus they're going to buy the lot in the back. And I was like, whoa, there's a lot? Like, tell me more about the lot. And he said, yeah. So he looked at it and basically it's the same size lot. I said, well, like, what if we could do a new construction on that lot? And so I looked into that, looked in the numbers. I was like, yeah, we got like $100,000 spread if we do new construction. So he got excited. Essentially, I still had not talked to the seller at this point. This guy, my friend, was the middleman, and he was the one relaying, hey, here's what we think we can do. Here's the offer. Here's, how quickly we can close. And so at one point, he still told me, he's like, yeah, so the other guy is offering basically a combined 195,000. And he said he's going to close like within 10 days. So she's just going to go ahead and do that. I said, okay, well, I understand, but, I still would love to be able to at least meet her and give my offer. And, he's got a close relationship with her because they're coworkers. And so he said, no, let's just hold off. Well, 2 days later, he texted me saying, hey, when can you go see the property? Apparently the other guy fell through. So this is why follow-up is so key. So the other guy who had put this $195,000 offer in on both the house and the lot fell through and gave this woman a very sour taste. But because I was friends of her coworker. She was willing to talk. So we went over to the property, and holy cow, like, yeah, absolutely. Tons and tons of trash. So I'm going to actually open up and show you. And if, again, if you have not seen this already, you can go take a look at the Instagram video and post that I did. Let's see here. So I'm going to my page, and this was as soon as I share this here. So boom, using my Facebook, and let me share my screen. Take a look at this. This was what the backyard looked like. So you can't see it here, but you can see one truck here. It's like an ice cream slash, I don't know, food truck. You've got a camper here, and then in the back of this, there you can see just the tail end of it. There's another camper behind that truck. So there's 3 recreational vehicles. There's all this junk. I mean, we're talking hoarder house status to the max, because this guy basically, he didn't live here. He just basically used it as a place to store all this stuff for like the last 15 years, and he lived in it for the first 15 years, something to that effect. And so basically, and inside the house, just tons of like antiques, tons of furniture, tons of books. And so this whole thing, she was like, I need you to take care of all of it. We own this. My dad owns this house free and clear, and he's not doing well. He's probably not going to make it too much longer on this earth. And we as the kids don't want to deal with having to get rid of all this junk. Whoever we give it to, we just want them to take care of it. And so I'm walking through the house, I'm looking, I'm doing some numbers in my head. I'm looking at, maybe like a $35,000 rehab, include, the lawn and all this stuff. And yeah, I think I'm right around that $45,000 number. So I'm thinking, and then she said, but you know what? We don't want 140, we want 145. I said, okay, so 145. And I'm thinking to myself, I had already done my deal analyzer before I showed up to the property. So I knew where my numbers needed to be. So I said, if it's 45,000, okay, we're not going to make the 43,000, but that was a really conservative ARV. So worst case scenario, like we're making 35 to 38 on this, that's still a really good profit. So I basically kind of, like ESP to the guy who's there with us, and he's kind of given the look of like thumbs up. And so I say, yeah, I've got my contract right here. Let's go ahead and sign. There's a key thing. Bring the contract with you. Anytime you meet with a seller, bring a contract with you. If you're right on the same page, you don't want to be having to convince them while they go back to, their family who's saying, oh, you could get more for that, and tell them like, no, you said, you want to get that in ink basically right there. So we did. Either way, she was happy. I knew she was not going to go back to family or anything. This was one of those sellers that just really was motivated to just get this off her hands. But that is a tip for those of you that want to do that in the future. Bring those seller agreements. So going back to my notes here. So we followed up, got the whole backyard thing figured out by looking at that just from there. We got it all signed. And then going back to the backyard, I had been told, hey, these vehicles can actually be towed out for free. I was thinking, okay, that's great. Well, turns out because they're recreational vehicles, they can't be towed out for free. So now we hit this like the sticking point where I was like, oh shoot, I did not factor in how much that might cost. And so I'm getting quotes. It's like $3,000 to get all these vehicles out. That's way more than I was expecting. And it wasn't going to break the bank, but it was still a headache. Plus the seller had actually told me, yeah, we have most of it like cleared out. A lot of this stuff is actually gone. Well, I showed up the day that we got the keys, and there might've been a lot of stuff that had been moved out of the inside of the house, but there was absolutely nothing moved outside. And so I threw out on Facebook, hey, can anyone help out? Does anyone know what I can do here? And I got a guy that actually messaged me. And if you're local to Fresno, go ahead and message me. I'll share his information. They did an amazing job. $2,000, got rid of the vehicles, got rid of everything inside of the house, which was down to not a whole lot, but they got rid of everything, that scrap metal, everything in the backyard. I could not believe how we were able to do that for such a small price. And we were off and running. I did have to sell some things on OfferUp from inside the house, which was nice. We made like an extra $400 just by posting and me telling them, hey, kind of like a garage sale type of thing, show up between 3 to 5 this day and get whatever you want. And we sold like $400 of furniture. So cool. I'll take it, whatever. But anyway, so now construction goes to start June 14th. And it was right around June 14th, but basically it was pretty straightforward. So here's the deal. We saved money on the AC because we got a like new unit. It's not a new unit, but a like new unit that ended up costing about $2,000 less than a new unit would. And then we were wanting to keep the hardwood floors. We really liked the original hardwood floors. We wanted to preserve some of the the original house that this guy had built with his bare hands. It was a really cool story of, knowing that he was not doing so well, but being able to sell his house and help out the family. And so we wanted to kind of say, hey, here's our way of preserving what you did. Unfortunately, the hardwood floors just were not in very good condition, and our contractor did not originally think that was going to be an issue. They thought they could refinish them and it would be fine. But unfortunately, they came back to us and said, yeah, usually this would cost like an extra $3,000, but can you go ahead and just pay for the material? And since we didn't put this in the original quote, we'll take care of the labor. This is the importance of working with the same contractor or contractors again and again and again. I've used these guys now 5 times. They know I'm going to continue to bring them deals, and they know that because of that, because we have a great relationship, they're going to be able to give me their best prices because they want that repeat business. So whereas most contractors would have gouged me and said, we need to, charge an extra $3,000-$4,000 for the floor, only an extra $1,000, didn't break the bank. Few other things started to add up. The front yard was a little bit more than expected. I think Brandon Turner says it on Bigger Pockets. I've never heard of anyone actually spending less money on the rehab than what they estimated. That was definitely the case here. So we ended up being about $8,000 over budget on the rehab. Instead of $45,000, we were right around $53,000. So not horrible, but here's what was really cool about this whole thing. And this is important to know because when you are doing deals, especially when it comes to flips, you are best off doing this when the market is doing this, not when the market is steady or when the market's going down. It's when it's going up, because when I buy that property, what's going to happen by the time that I'm done with that property? It's probably going to be worth more, not just because I fix it up, but because time and because the market's doing this. So this market, while I started out at 245,000, I just start seeing some comps pop up. Oh, that one was for 260. That one's for 265. That one's not as nice, but a little bit bigger, and it went for 290. Okay, well, let's see here. So I got my realtor out there. I got a few other people out there that are real estate professionals. I told them, hey, I'm kind of thinking like 260, 265 here. What do you think? And one of them throughout this, like, to me, was just this obscene number. He's like 27.5 or 275,000. And I was like, you're crazy. There's no way. And he's like, just try it. Worst thing that can happen is that you put it on the market 7 to 10 days later, you drop it down to 269 or something around there. It's like, all right, whatever. In 3 days, we went pending with a cash buyer, 15-day close at 274.5. So $274,500. I am blown away. Obviously, we're on day 3 now of escrow, and it's real estate. Things can happen, possibly could fall out. I'm knocking on wood as I say that, but the important thing right now is that we're pending on the number that we wanted. So now that I've done that, I want to show you what the actual numbers are as we are closing here. And then I'm going to give you 5 ways that I think you can start doing deals like this as well. So let me share my screen one more time. And here we go. So here is the updated deal analyzer of this same property and updated numbers. So we are pending at 2,745. We bought it for 145. We put in 53,000. And as long as we close in time, we're closing in 3 months instead of 4 months. So all in price is basically about 200,000 with buying costs included. A little bit higher on the selling costs with the realtor. A little bit lower on the holding costs because we're not holding it for 4 months like we originally expected. Again, no financing costs, which is awesome. And If you remember, it was right about a 24% return on investment. This one now is almost at 30%, and we're splitting possibly a $59,000 profit. So the cool thing about this is, if you remember, I'm actually 8,000-ish over budget, but because this property is selling for $30,000 more than I originally expected due to time and me conservatively pricing this out before doing the deal, we are now making, instead of 43,000, we're going to be making right around $59,000, splitting that down the middle. Still, even that is going to make me personally more than I've made on anything that I've done solo, let alone doing this together and getting that full almost $60,000. But this is the power of doing a flip during a up market, a market that continues to go up. I'm blown away by this whole thing. I'm so excited about this. And the great thing is here that everyone is happy. The seller is, I took the seller in through the house. She knows exactly what we're selling for, what we're making. She's not like, I can't believe you didn't give us more money. She's not saying that. We solved her problem. We went straight to her and said, what do you need to make this work? And she's told us $145,000. She didn't say 200,000 and then we convince her and gouge her and say, oh, you're going to be crazy. We didn't do any of that. We just asked her what she wanted and we met her exactly where she wanted to be. We solved her problem. And then and that's what I love about real estate. Everyone's winning here. The realtors winning, the contractors winning, the sellers winning, the buyers winning, the new buyer is winning. As this person is selling their house in LA and moving over here because they know that prices in Fresno and cost of living is way lower. So they're stoked. They were like, hey, we want you to accept this offer in the next hour because we want this house that bad. Like, that's, everyone around is winning, which is what I'm really excited about. So long story short, this deal felt like it was gift wrapped and put right in front of me, right? So a lot of you are probably saying like, oh gosh, Kyle, like you have this podcast and you have this YouTube channel and people know what you're doing, and so of course you're going to get these deals. Well, guys, that's why I started the podcast and YouTube channel. That was my marketing. I didn't want to put in thousands of dollars into direct mail every single week, every single month, and say, I hope I get a deal. I wanted to do the things that I could A, afford, B, I was passionate about, and C, I knew would create fruit in the long run. And that was why I started. That's why I believe in networking as well. So all these things, it's taken time. If you didn't watch last week or listen last week, I gave you 5 ways to be able to start doing big deals like this. And we talked about time, consistency, your message, networking. We talked about all these different things. So I definitely encourage you to go back and look at that. But right now, I'm going to give you the 5 ways I think you can do deals, start doing deals like this. But just getting into real estate alone, that's really like what I think you need to look at, these 5 ways of doing something like this. So first, do a deal. Like my first deal, guys, I would never do it again. I made $5,000. I made $6,100. It was a flip that was getting me like an 8% return. I would never do a flip that gives me an 8% return. However, I needed to do a deal. I needed to get into how to learn how to do this, the process, just make a few bucks to show people that it does work. And so I did that. And what did I do? I talked about it. I didn't have a YouTube channel or podcast this time. I just shared it on social media. And I told people what I was doing. And then the person who I raised the money from, they made like, it was somewhere around 13.5 to 14% on their money, because I wanted to overpay them and I wanted to give value. And so they went and started telling people about how much money they made over, just 3 months. And so basically I did a deal and I talked about it. And then what did I do after that? I did another deal and I talked about it. And then what did I do after that? I did another deal and I talked about it. Are you seeing the trend here? Do a deal and then talk about it. What happens there? It's this, I just talked about it in my Airbnb mastermind group, where it's this abundance mindset. When you talk to people about what you're doing, your goal is not only to tell them so that they know how to help you and to send deals your way, but it's also to teach them and to show them what you're doing, to inspire them, so that people will want to be attracted to exactly what you're doing. So, one of the first posts that I made when I made that $6,100, I was like, a lot of people would not be excited about this deal, but here's the transparency. I only made $6,100 on this, but I only put about 20 hours of work into this altogether. And that's over $300 per hour that I just made. That's the most I've ever been paid in any job in my life. I'm excited about this. And so I got more comments and shares and likes on that post than any post I think I've done in the last couple of years when it comes to real estate. But people just saw that I was now the real deal because I did a deal. All right, so that's the first thing. Do a deal and talk about it and repeat. Number two, build a strong team of contractors, subcontractors, realtors, money lenders, all the people that you need to make a deal run seamlessly. The management of my rehabs and my sales is so low maintenance that I can do it from anywhere. I don't have to be in Fresno doing this thing. I can tell the realtor who's eventually going to sell this house, hey, can you go out to the property and, just take a double look at what my contractor has done? Does everything look good? Do we need to fix up anything? I just like going to the property myself though, because it's kind of like my baby while it's going on. I usually only have one project going on at a time. And so I kind of like to, coddle that baby. I like to go and even after this one, we had everything cleaned up, but the cleaner only did the inside. So I went over and I swept and I got all the cobwebs off the fences and all that kind of stuff, because I just like to put in the time myself because I really am proud of the work that's being done. But I built this strong team that if I wasn't there would allow me to be able to do this completely passively once I kind of hand the keys over. My friend Sean Magner said it best. When I get a deal, I hand the keys to the contractor and say, call me when it's done. And that's really the mindset that you can take to it if you have the right team. Number three, market, market, market. You have to have your marketing figured out. For me, it was networking and it was eventually creating a podcast and YouTube channel. But I also was knocking on doors in the beginning. I was looking at doing bandit signs and direct mail. I just, for some reason, didn't want to pull the trigger. Really, to be honest, I think a lot of people are getting great results on those. My mentor has hounded me from day one to do direct mail. And that's really against what I preach. Do what your mentor tells you. However, I've told him the same thing the whole time. I'm really happy at doing a deal every other month or every 3 months just through networking and helping people out. So that's what I like to do. I don't like taking cold calls. I don't like getting calls from angry sellers. I like doing deals with people just like this one that was given to us, where it's like, hey, this person needs help and I can provide that solution. And so I've done that by networking and talking about what I'm doing so that people, when they hear house or Airbnb or remodel or anything, they think of me. And so that's my marketing strategy. What's your marketing strategy? Are you great at cold calling? Great. Get a list, go call. Are you great at receiving calls from qualified buyers? Great. Go get a bandit sign or do direct mail. Just be ready to get some angry messages as well. Are you great at networking? Great. Go to meetup groups, go talk to people. No matter what, you should always be networking. If you're an introvert, you're going to have to figure out how to force yourself to be a little bit of an extrovert at least once a month to go to a meetup group. So that's number three. Number four, become an expert in your market. Know your numbers. If you realize what I've taken you through here, I was confident with the offer that I gave this owner, this seller, because I knew my numbers going in. I knew if I was at $140,000 and the rehab looked like it was going to be about 40 to 45, then I would make $43,000. She bumped it up another 5,000. Okay, I'm still good with 37,000 on the profit or 38 on the profit. That's fine. Let's go ahead and do the deal. But I was confident in those numbers. And so how do you get to become an expert in your market? Well, that's what number 5 is. And that is get a mentor or a partner that knows more than you, brings value to the table so that you don't feel like you're doing this alone. I think that's the biggest thing is, I started out doing solo flips and I still will do those if I don't need the partner, but we just got a new flip under contract where, we have to track down someone who's on title that is missing. We have to evict some tenants. And so there's these things that I'm like, I don't know how to do that. but my mentor knows how to do that. And there's a ton of meat on the bones with this one, possibly a $60,000 to $70,000 profit. So let's do this together and let's make 30 to 35 each. I'm totally fine with that because now I have someone that's going to show me how they do it, how they contact people who are on title that are missing, how they evict people, how they manage their rehab, and all this kind of stuff that's going to help me to learn. And that is the most important part in this whole process, is having someone that can help you get past all of your learning curves, because learning curves don't have to happen. You don't have to learn the hard way, as long as you have that mindset of not having ego, not having to do it all your way. So again, recap. Number one, do a deal, talk about it, repeat. Number two, build a strong team of your entire team. Number three, market, market, market. Number four, become an expert in your market. And number five, get a mentor or a partner. So really happy to have shared this deal with you today. Go take a look at the before and after pictures on our Instagram page. If you're not following us on Instagram, it's at Fearless Kyle. And also our website, fearlesskyle.com, where you can download our Airbnb profit calculator, and you can see our YouTube channel and podcasts. And as always, thank you so much for joining us here on the Fearless Investor Podcast, where we're helping you to conquer the world of investing. We'll see you next time.